thank you, Johan, to be with us. The world is changing.
It's changing quite a lot. We see different things that are driving the change, as I see it. One of the things is that influence perhaps most is the digitalization and the introduction of robotic AI solutions and those machine learning and all that stuff that will influence the way that purchasing are working in the future. We will have digitalized solutions that are doing more and more of the transactional task, but even a task like driving e-auction, driving AI will influence the workload for a purchaser going forward. What will very clearly remain is all the interaction with the supplier. So I think we will have an extra focus on the purchasing stuff, on the personal skills matter. They need to be good alignment with the supplier and with internal stakeholder within SKF, in my perspective at least.
So we understand that the world is changing. You're going to have more robots, and the influence on the competence necessary for buyer is a competence should be more dedicated to relation in between the supplier and the stakeholder. What does it mean exactly? What type of new competence this needs?
I will take a little bit other turn now than exactly answer your question there first, but I'm coming back to your question there, Bernard, because it's a good question. But as I see it now, I think that the purchaser will work more and more in teams. So they work together with a team of colleagues there. And I think some of the expert knowledge that we have on a purchaser will be a little bit splitted up. Let's say that we have a steel team like we have in SKF. As you can understand, we're buying a lot of steel. If we then appoint one of the person to be the negotiation expert, he can be even smarter on that and doing even better thing. Not meaning that he will take all the negotiations towards the supplier, but that person could do all of the thinking behind of what type of negotiation strategy should be put together, how should we drive different things. Then that person will be an expert in negotiation area. And if we then at the same time can build him into another team, we have started up to talk about the guild, the term of a guild here a little bit, that belonging to a guild that are belonging to the expert of negotiation around the whole of SKF, then he get his feeding of being even better on negotiation in that small guild there, that small team, and he contributing or she is contributing in the team that they are working. So we see going forward that most likely we will have expert knowledge of the purchaser. Not all purchasers need to be expert on negotiation, on contract, on RFQ, on different things there. They need to be decent as always. So they need to have a lowest level that we need to increase. They have a lowest level of competences on every area. But we see that some of them will be expert in different areas in the team. So each team have an expert on each of the appointed area. This will build up step by step. And in the beginning, I can foresee that some senior member perhaps is expert in more than one area, 2 or 3 areas. But then we can bring in a new talent into the team as well. And that talent develop the expert knowledge and take over one of the expert knowledge area from the senior staff in the team. So I think that is a way going forward here now where we see how we can work with the different things. But going back to your question there a little bit, I think it's not that much new competences that are needed from a purchaser. A good purchaser yesterday will be a good purchaser tomorrow as well, for sure. But with the help of expert in different areas, we can enhance the total competences in the team by that. It have been for a very long time, personal skill is important to have a good alignment with the internal stakeholder and with the supplier. So that is not a new competences as I see it. It will be a little bit higher demand of some of the competences than we have had in the past. But a purchaser that have had good skills in the past will be a good purchaser going forward as well. They need to adapt to the change and not stick to working with things that they have done in the past. They need to use all of the tools that we are putting out there to support them. So they need to adhere to all the new changes there. They need to emphasize innovation going forward a little bit, both in innovation in the way that a supplier can give innovation into us in SKF, but also innovate the processes together with the supplier and internal as well.
So one key point you just mentioned is the creating a team. And in this team, not everybody has a complete set of competencies of expertise. You say we need a minimum of competence, but each of us in the team is an expert of something. Yes. How do you create this team, basically? Is it a team around a category? Is it a team in, how do you create these teams and how can we add some competence to this team?
What we are looking now, it is to use the teams that we have already. We have category teams, and in the category teams, they are working, and then we need to appoint different expert knowledge in the team. We have in many of the factories now, we have a team consisting of a lot of purchases there. We need to enhance the competences in that team as well. So we need to make sure that all the teams that we have today that have a decent size, we need to split them. What we need to think about a little bit, it is about a smaller team. As SKF have a big factory footprint, we have production in more than 100 factories. We don't have a lot of purchases in all of them. In some factories, it's 1 or 2, and then it's a harder bit there. Then we need to make sure that those we're creating a bunch of factories that's working together that will support each other there, because it will not be possible if you are only 2 persons to have 10 different expert knowledge. You need to be a bigger team there.
So in each of these teams, because it's a very interesting concept, in each of these teams, you recognize a specific person for a specific competence and he has a specific role, or is not really well known? I mean, is it very well not dictated but shared, or is it not so shared?
This is looking into the future, and you talked about the future. We are not there yet. We are working with it to getting into this position just now. So we are discussing this now, how we can build this up with the 2 teams alignment there. One team is delivering the result, and another team is to consist of expert in that specific area. So they can build up the expert knowledge in another dimension than they normally deliver the normal purchasing result, so to say.
Okay, and among these, if we go back to these skills, we have to share what's the importance of soft skills and hard skills, the tools, techniques, and other behavior.
Yeah, as mentioned in the beginning, that we see that one thing that we can't push away, and that is the interaction with suppliers and with internal stakeholder. That will be an even bigger part of the day-to-day work for a purchaser, because that is something that we can't automate, and we shouldn't automate it as well. We should trust on people talking to each other, meeting each other when we can do that, when we go into a new normal situation after this COVID situation. So definitely the soft skill will be an important part, but and perhaps a little bit more important going forward. But as I see it, it have been an important part for a good purchaser the last 5-10 years as well. A good purchaser are good on interaction with suppliers and with internal stakeholders.
Would you say that those skills are common to any buyer in SKF, or would you say that these skills should be common to the business or to other companies, or do you think there are some very specific skills for your business and in SKF?
Skills that we should have in SKF, the only skill that we need to look into it is we need to be really good on bearing steels, but that is the expert areas that we are buying that we need to have the skills on. But as purchaser, we have the general skills. A good purchaser is a good purchaser all the time. It takes a little bit time for a good purchaser to be go into a new area, because it's new expert competences in that area, and that expert competences we need to maintain as well, for sure. And that is different from different companies, specifically in the direct material area. Indirect, if you can buy IT consultant on one place, you can do it on other places as well. But if you're good buying steel, you're not certainly good on buying bearing steels because of that, because that is a little bit different scope there.
Thank you very much, Johan. I'm just getting back to the idea of a team. I understand that you're looking for, you will looking for some experts in different topics among these members. How are you going to assess this competence, this expertise? Are you going to assess, I mean, we're speaking about the future. You think assessing a group of competence, are you going to individualize this analysis of competence? So what do you think about it? Because these concepts of team is really interesting in a sense.
Yeah. I think the starting point will be quite natural. We can take one example that we have had here in SKF in the past. We know that the guy that now is performing and is negotiating expert in the steel team, we from a central perspective tried to push him to take that role a couple of years ago and develop his skills there. Didn't work out. But then what happened is that naturally it have been put out that he will now have taken that role as a natural step, because they needed somebody in the team that were doing the negotiation thinking, and then that person pops up and take the role. So I think it will develop step by step, and I think many of the teams know who they turn to when there are different expert areas. So it's only to make it visible on the paper, you could say, that who is the expert in the team. I think it is there already in some constraint that they know who to turn to in different questions. And then they will realize that in some, it's they turn into one and the same person everywhere. And then it's a manager responsibility to develop skills on other people in the team. So they don't only have one person to turn to when it is all the questions, so to say. So that will be a good step forward to develop different employees. And then if they point out the person, and that person should be, let's say, negotiation, as we have talked a lot about that, but are not that good. If that person then belong to the guild that we call the other team then, that are developing the negotiation competences, by being part of that guild, that person will develop that skills in that area. And when they don't have the full expert knowledge, they have the guild there that they can turn to. And there they have, in all them, there are some expert of experts, so to say, and they will help out each other. So we think it will go fine with a step-by-step approach.
Thank you very much, Johan. One more comment concerning the skills. How do you see the balance evolving in between the purchasing specific skills and the more generic leadership skills for this future?
Coming back to what I said, it will be a lot of SRM going forward and internal stakeholder. So that portion of a purchaser will be bigger going forward. And it's a lot about social skills that are involved in that area. But we can't neglect that we need to have the competence skills in what we are buying. So we need to build that up as well, but we need to have that skill in those areas. And if you're new to a commodity, it will take you some time where you need to spend more on what you are buying actually, and how that is working, what's the logic about that, than on aligning with the supplier. But when you're up to a certain level, then you will kick in and see much more of the social part there.
Thank you very much for these points, Johan. We understood what type of competencies you're looking for the future. Now, how are you going to, or how are you developing training roadmaps to improve those competencies in general, and then perhaps across the world? As you say, you have people all around the world. So what type of training roadmaps you developing to fit this requirement?
It will be a bunch of different things. What we have seen, we have a huge catalog of specific trainings within purchasing, and we have had can mention one. We have had a specific training on project management, one face-to-face training on that. We are moving many of our training over now to e-learnings and splitting them up. By doing that, not splitting them up completely, but putting them together, and at the same time be able to look into different part of the training. So that make it possible still for a person in SKF to take the full one-day training with an e-learning, with test and everything like that in the end, but also be able to look into specific matters. If they want to look into precise matter, how should you deal with the steering committee, then they could watch just that part of the training. So by that, being able to look on a small part of the training, but still maintain and have it in the catalog, and you get a certificate, you could say, that you have passed that training in the training catalog. So that we will have. Then on the bottom, we have a basic, what we call an up program in SKF, to give up the basic training to get up to a decent level on all purchaser on the basic stuff overall, because all purchaser need to have the basic skills there still. Then when you go into the expert, then we think a lot about the guild there, that it will be guild or the expert knowledge team meeting, where we will develop that in those meetings a lot.
And when you speak about distance learning, you speak and you mention mainly e-learning, and you learn by yourself, or it's also important for you to have this virtual class? Do you think that's a self-learning in front of your computer with e-learning is enough, or you still think that a tutor, a mentor is necessary for sharing and exchanging with students?
What we have, I mentioned our UP program. The UP program is a basic program with where they get the certificate. So that is the basic stuff there to bring them up to a basic level and to measure that in a good way. So we know that we have the basic stuff in place. So that is overall. And the other training I mentioned here is more specific deep training that we need to deal with the matters that we have in SKF. But the basic, we use external partner.
And it's this type of training, what you say, the basics foundation, is rather done online, as you say, but is a self-learning and without tutor, or we still have some virtual class because it's necessary to exchange?
I think in that basic training, we're using a mix of different things, e-learning, virtual classes, and
Okay.
perhaps we see some face-to-face part as well. Perhaps not this year, but coming years. I expect that we will go back to a little bit more with face-to-face there as well. So that is needed as well.
And how you go along with the different culture, the different countries? Everything is in English, or do you adapt the training to different languages around the world?
We try to keep as much as possible in English. We don't have, in all part of the world, in SKF, we don't have English knowledge that good as we should in purchasing. Brazil is one area, China is another area where we don't have English, but we are focusing a lot of the training in English.
So the majority is in one common language, which is English, but you adapt the same training in different languages, such as Chinese or anything else.
Portuguese in Brazil. Yeah.
Okay, and for tomorrow, so today we are in this pandemic where e-learning and distance learning, virtual class are remote training is the way of doing. What do you think for tomorrow? Do you think the face-to-face will be back, or
it will be a bigger mixture in going forward? What we have seen, and what I said with this project management training that we had here, that we split it up in smaller sessions. I see that if you look on the young people today, when they learn something, they go into YouTube and see a clip of 2 to 5 minutes or something like that. We need to adapt to that. We need to have training on specific things that are small and easy to consume in that way. We need to bring them together to larger portion as well, because it's important that you get clarification that you have done the project management training. So then you have them brought together in bigger bunches. And in some training, I think we need also the face-to-face versions there, because that also deliver the virtual classes as well, deliver this, that you have the combination of the more than one culture, and you meet together, and you have other type of learning when you meet people, for sure, than if you only meet virtually or digitally. So I think we will have a big variety in the coming years.
Thank you very much, Johan, for this. As a conclusion, any comment, any perhaps elements you would like to insist on as developing these academies and developing the competence for future?
I think it's important that we are prepared for a big variety, having small trainings that are on 3-5 minutes long on specific topics, and that we have the face-to-face one that where we meet and can work together at the whiteboard and develop different things there, and have the virtual classes and the digital e-learnings there. So it will be a very interesting future, and I think we will see a lot of different things going forward. And as always, we need also some certification that are important in many countries, and for many people, that we have a certificate, that we have a certain basic knowledge, as I call it, or base knowledge, or whatever we would like to call it.
Thank you very much, Johan, for this very interesting point of views about the team, about the competence sharing in a team, about the competence of the future. Thank you very much, Johan. Hope to see you soon.